It's hard to put into words the constant pressure that comes with trying to make ends meet when everything around you seems to be getting more expensive, but your paycheck stays the same. I'm 26, working full-time, and yet every day feels like I'm treading water, barely staying afloat while the current drags me further away from the life I imagined for myself. The financial squeeze isn't just about money, it's about the way it shapes every decision, chips away at my confidence, and forces me to delay dreams that once felt so close. I remember when I graduated college, full of hope and ambition. I thought my degree would be a ticket out of struggle. But the truth hit hard. Rent in the city is sky high, groceries cost more every week, utilities climb with the seasons, and healthcare expenses aren't getting any cheaper. Meanwhile, my salary has barely increased in the past 2 years, not even close to keeping pace with inflation. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up, no matter how fast I go. Every morning, I wake up and mentally run through the checklist of what I can afford that week. Can I pay my credit card bill this month without falling behind on rent? Should I skip the gym membership to save a few bucks, even though I know exercise helps my mental health? How many meals can I cook at home before I hit my grocery budget? The decisions are endless and draining. It feels like there's no margin for error, no room for the unexpected. Sometimes, I'm overwhelmed by the sheer monotony of this survival mode. Going to work, coming home, budgeting, scrimping, postponing, day after day, week after week. It wears on my spirit. Social invitations are often declined because I can't afford the cost, and over time that isolates me. I feel like I'm shrinking into a smaller version of myself, where joy and spontaneity have been sacrificed at the altar of necessity. The emotional toll is heavy. I wrestle with feelings of shame and frustration. Why can't I figure this out? I know people with less education or opportunity seem to manage, so why do I feel stuck? The uncertainty gnaws at me, especially when unexpected expenses come up, like car repairs or medical bills. The stress is like a constant low-level hum in the background, sometimes rising to a roar that keeps me awake at night. To cope, I've developed a few survival strategies. I lean heavily on my close friends and family for emotional support, even if I can't always join them financially. I've gotten creative with my time, picking up side gigs here and there, learning free skills online, and trying to find joy in simple, low-cost pleasures like reading or hiking. Therapy helps, too, though I have to ration sessions carefully. But despite these efforts, the feeling of being trapped in a system that's rigged against me never fully goes away. There are dreams I've shelved indefinitely, further education, travel, even saving for a down payment on a place of my own. I watch others move forward with these milestones, and I feel left behind. I want a future where I'm not just surviving but thriving. Where financial stability isn't a daily struggle but a foundation I can build on. Where I can plan without fear of a single misstep collapsing my progress. It's hard to admit all this out loud, but the truth is, I'm scared. Scared that this cycle will continue, that the gap between income and expenses will only widen. Scared that the promise of the American dream, or whatever your dream might be, is just that, a promise I'll never catch. But beneath that fear, I cling to hope. Hope that change is possible, both for me personally and in the larger system that makes these struggles so widespread. I'm sharing this because I want anyone else feeling this weight to know they're not alone. Financial pressure doesn't just affect bank accounts, it affects hearts and minds. And maybe, by speaking honestly, we can find strength in our shared experience and work toward a future where these stories are less common. For now, I keep moving forward, one careful, hopeful step at a time. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd feel so squeezed by money that every day feels like a test I'm failing. It's not just about lacking cash, it's this constant pressure, this gnawing anxiety that never really leaves. You get up in the morning, already tired, and the first thought is, how am I going to make this month work? Not the dream, not the plans or ambitions, but just survival. It's a slow kind of suffocation, this feeling of being trapped in a system where expenses climb higher and higher, while my paycheck stays stubbornly the same. I'm 27, working a decent job, not glamorous, but it pays the bills, sort of. At least, it pays most of the bills. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, phone bills, student loan payments, and then those sneaky little things that add up, like a sudden doctor visit or my phone needing a new screen. Everything seems to cost more these days. Inflation isn't just a headline I scroll past, it's the empty spaces in my bank account, the extra shift I pick up, the meal I skip out on because it's cheaper to grab a bag of chips than a real lunch. Every decision is weighted down by money. I can't just say yes to plans with friends because even a small night out means a week of careful budgeting. When they ask to hang out, I smile and say, maybe next time, knowing full well there might not be a next time for a while. The social isolation it causes? It's another toll on my mental health, but it's a trade-off I'm forced to make. I want connection, but connection costs money, or at least it feels that way. Then there's the rent. Oh, the rent. It climbs each year like a slow-moving beast. My apartment isn't much, just a tiny one-bedroom that I share with too many worries, but it's home. I'm stuck here because anything better is out of reach. When I moved in 2 years ago, the rent was already high, but manageable. Now, it feels like the walls are closing in, and all I hear is the landlord's voice saying, rent goes up next month. It's a cruel reminder that no matter how hard I work, my income isn't keeping up with the cost of living. I often think about what my life could look like if money wasn't a cage. I'd go back to school, finish that degree I started years ago but put on hold because I had to work full-time. I'd save up enough to travel, see the world beyond my cramped apartment and the same streets I walk every day. I'd invest in hobbies that make me feel alive instead of numbing myself with the endless grind. But those dreams feel distant, suspended in some future I might never reach. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There are days I wake up with a pit in my stomach, a heaviness I can't shake. Anxiety wraps itself around my chest whenever I think about the next bill or the unexpected expense lurking around the corner. Sometimes I lie awake at night, running through scenarios, trying to figure out how to stretch every dollar, how to fix things that break, how to avoid asking family for help because I hate feeling like a burden. Coping isn't easy. I try to stay optimistic, to remind myself this is temporary, but temporary has stretched on for years now. I find small escapes, reading, walking, listening to music, but they only dull the edges. I have a journal where I pour out my fears and frustrations, sometimes that helps, sometimes it just makes the reality feel sharper. I've started therapy, which is a lifeline, but even that costs money I have to scrape together. Friends and family often tell me to be patient, that things will get better. I want to believe them, but it's hard when every month looks like a repeat of the last, paycheck swallowed up by bills, and no real progress in sight. The system feels rigged against people like me, those of us who work hard, who try to make responsible choices, but still get crushed by rising costs and stagnant wages. I feel stuck in a cycle where no matter how much I hustle, it's never enough to build a safety net or chase the things I truly want. It's a weird kind of loneliness, too, knowing that so many people are in the same boat, yet feeling completely isolated by your own struggles. Sometimes I wonder if this is just the new normal, if this constant financial stress is something I'm supposed to endure forever. Despite all this, I still hold on to hope. It's fragile, often overshadowed by fear and frustration, but it's there. I dream of the day when I can breathe without the weight of money crushing down on me. When I can say yes to a spontaneous trip, to buying a nice meal, to investing in myself without guilt. Until then, I keep going, one day, one paycheck, one small victory at a time. I never imagined that adulthood would feel like this, like I'm constantly treading water but sinking deeper every day. It's like living inside a cage, one built from bills, rent, and a paycheck that just refuses to stretch far enough. The economic pressure is not just a background noise, it's the loudest thing in my life, pounding on me every morning when I wake up, every time I reach for my wallet, every night before I sleep. I'm 27, working a full-time job that I used to think would be the foundation of a stable life. But stability is a cruel joke. The wages barely keep pace with the cost of living, which feels like it's rising on steroids. Rent, groceries, utilities, gas, everything creeps up little by little, and no matter how hard I tighten my belt, the gaps just keep widening. There's this invisible scale tipping against me, and it's exhausting. Everyday decisions feel like choices in a game where the rules are rigged. Should I buy the slightly cheaper groceries but skip fresh fruit and veggies? Or do I hold out for the payday and risk going hungry? Should I skip my morning coffee to save $4, even though it's the one thing that kickstarts my day? Or do I drive to work to save the bus fare, even though the car eats up more gas than I can really afford? I catch myself calculating costs on everything, sometimes even second-guessing small joys because I can't justify them anymore. The feeling of being trapped in this financial stranglehold is suffocating. It's like trying to climb a ladder whose rungs keep getting further apart, even though I'm moving as fast as I can. Bills arrive with the cold certainty of a judge's sentence, and each one chips away a bit more of my peace of mind. The credit card I thought would be a safety net has become a chain, and the interest just adds weight. I lie awake at night, heart pounding, wondering if I'll be able to pay rent next month, or if I'll have to skip a doctor's visit because I need to buy gas instead. I'm embarrassed to admit how much this stress has gotten under my skin. I try to put on a brave face for friends and family, but inside, there's a storm of anxiety and frustration that sometimes spills over. I hate feeling like I'm falling behind in life while everyone else seems to be moving forward. Weddings, trips, new apartments, even simple nights out, these are things I used to dream about and now mostly avoid thinking about because they seem so out of reach. The postponement of dreams is one of the cruelest parts of this whole experience. I'm always telling myself, if I can just get through this month, if I can just save a bit more, then I can start planning. But that then keeps slipping away. Sometimes I wonder if it's just me or if this is how it is for most people my age. I scroll through social media and see pictures of friends traveling or buying their first homes, and it stings. It makes me question my worth, my choices, even my future. I try to remind myself that social media is a highlight reel, but the ache remains. It's like watching a life I want but can't quite touch. Coping with this pressure isn't easy. I've developed routines, small rituals to keep the chaos at bay. I track every expense obsessively, sometimes to the point of exhaustion, but it's the only way I can feel some control. I cook at home almost every day, even when I'm exhausted, because eating out is a luxury I can't afford. I've started walking more to save on transit, even if it means adding an hour to my day. I binge listen to podcasts about personal finance, hoping to glean some trick or hack that will somehow make a difference. And when it gets really tough, I talk to close friends, though I often hesitate to share the full weight of what I'm feeling. The hardest moments come when I try to think about the future. What does it even look like? I used to have so many plans, traveling, buying a car, maybe even going back to school, but those feel like distant fantasies now. Instead of feeling excited about what's ahead, I feel trapped by what's right in front of me, the endless cycle of work, bills, and barely scraping by. Yet, despite it all, I hold on to hope, even if it's a fragile thing. I remind myself that this isn't permanent, even though it feels that way sometimes. I dream of a day when I can breathe freely, when my paycheck covers more than just the basics, when I can say yes to opportunities instead of always saying no. I want to believe that with persistence, maybe some luck, and a bit of help, I can break free from this cycle. For now, I take it day by day, trying to be kind to myself when I stumble and celebrating the small wins, like managing to save a few bucks or getting through a particularly tough week. I'm learning that resilience isn't about never falling but about standing up, over and over, despite how heavy the weight feels. If there's one thing I've come to understand, it's that financial pressure is more than just numbers. It's a quiet, relentless force that shapes who I am, how I see the world, and how I hope for my future. And even when it's hard to see the light, I'm still here, still fighting, still dreaming. I never imagined that reaching my mid-20s would feel like drowning in slow motion. Every day is a constant reminder of how relentless financial pressure can be, how it seeps into every decision I make and chips away at my sense of peace. It's like living in a world that's designed to move forward, but my feet are stuck in quicksand. No matter how hard I try to keep up, expenses rise faster than my paycheck, and that gap feels impossible to bridge. Growing up, I always believed that working hard and being responsible would lead to stability. I graduated with a decent degree, landed a job that should have been my stepping stone, and moved into my own apartment with a mix of pride and excitement. But then reality hit, a rent hike, utility bills creeping upward, groceries that cost more each week, car repairs I hadn't budgeted for. The paycheck I receive is practically frozen in time, while everything else seems to sprint ahead. The economic environment feels like an invisible weight dragging me down. Inflation, rising interest rates, the cost of healthcare and insurance, all these things I hear about in the news have a direct, painful impact on my life. I have to constantly reassess and readjust, cutting corners in ways that sometimes feel humiliating. Skipping meals to save money, avoiding social outings with friends, postponing doctor visits because the copays are too high. It's exhausting to live with the constant tension of not knowing if I'll make it through the month without falling behind. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. There are days when I'm overwhelmed by anxiety, waking up in the middle of the night wondering if I'll have enough to cover rent or if a sudden expense will push me over the edge. The pressure makes me feel small and powerless, like the system is stacked against me. I try to remind myself that I'm not alone, but it's hard to shake the loneliness that creeps in when you can't participate in the world around you the way others do. My mental health suffers under the strain. Sometimes I feel trapped in a loop, where financial stress fuels my anxiety, and anxiety makes it harder to focus at work or make good decisions. I try to cope by setting strict budgets, learning to cook cheap but healthy meals, and leaning on a small circle of supportive friends and family. I've even started journaling, trying to process the frustration and sadness without letting it consume me completely. But the most painful part is the dreams I've had to put on hold. I wanted to travel, to save for a home, to continue my education and build a career that I'm proud of. Instead, those goals feel distant and unrealistic, like luxuries I can't afford right now. Watching peers achieve milestones I once thought were inevitable stings more than I like to admit. I catch myself wondering if I'll ever catch up or if I'm destined to stay stuck. Sometimes I fantasize about a different reality, a future where my income grows with the cost of living, where unexpected expenses don't mean crisis, where I can breathe without financial fear. I hold on to that hope, even when it feels fragile. I believe that being honest about this struggle is the first step toward change, both for myself and for others facing the same fight. So here I am, sharing this story not because I have all the answers, but because I want someone else to know they're not alone. Financial pressure is more than numbers on a page, it's a lived experience that touches our hearts, our relationships, and our futures. And maybe, by speaking openly, we can find a little strength together to keep moving forward, even when the path feels unbearably steep. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm stuck in a loop, endlessly running but getting nowhere. I'm 26, and most days it feels like my entire life is just a constant balancing act between what I have and what I absolutely need. The bills, the rent, the groceries, the car payments, the unexpected expenses, they all pile up faster than I can catch my breath. It's this relentless pressure that's worn me down over the past few years, and the strangest part is how normal it feels now. Like this is just what life is supposed to be, even though deep down I know it shouldn't be. I graduated college with hopes, big hopes. I wanted to build a life where I wasn't just surviving but thriving. I imagined having the freedom to travel, to explore hobbies, maybe even start a family someday without feeling terrified about money. But the reality? It's so far from that. The economy feels like it's spinning out of control, and I'm caught in the middle of a system that keeps squeezing tighter. Every time I get a little raise at work, the rent hikes, the grocery prices spike, or the utility bills shoot up. It's like no matter how hard I try, my income just isn't enough. Expenses always seem to grow faster, like an invisible force dragging me down. Every month I sit with my calculator and spreadsheets, trying to make sense of the numbers. I track every dollar, every expense, but even with the strictest budgeting, there's this gnawing feeling of insecurity. What if the car breaks down? What if my hours get cut? What if there's a medical emergency? I barely sleep thinking about these what ifs. I know I'm not alone in this, but that doesn't make it easier. Some days, I skip meals or eat less just to save a few bucks. I take public transit instead of the bus because the fare difference adds up. I've stopped going out with friends because even a small dinner or movie feels like a luxury I can't afford. It's lonely. I watch my friends post pictures of trips, new gadgets, or just hanging out without a care, and I feel this mix of envy and sadness. I want to tell them how exhausting it is to always have to say no to things, but I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. I just want to be normal, to have some breathing room. There's this pressure to keep up appearances too, to not let anyone see the cracks in the facade. I still dress nicely, keep my apartment tidy, and smile at work. But behind the scenes, I'm constantly juggling bills, canceling subscriptions, and making tough choices about what to cut next. I've learned to be quiet about it because I worry people will judge me or think I'm irresponsible. It's hard to admit that I don't have a safety net, that one missed paycheck could send me spiraling. Emotionally, it's draining. The weight of financial stress affects everything: my confidence, my relationships, even my sense of self-worth. Some nights I lie awake wondering if I'm doing something wrong or if I'm just destined for this cycle. I want to believe that hard work will pay off eventually, but after years of struggling, it's hard not to feel trapped. It's like I'm in a cage with no key, and the bars are made of bills and rising costs. I cope by focusing on the small things: a good book, a walk in the park, chatting with a close friend who understands. I try to remind myself that this situation isn't permanent. I'm learning to be resilient, to find joy in little victories, and to plan carefully. But sometimes, the dreams I had feel so far away. I've had to postpone plans for graduate school because the loans and living expenses are too overwhelming. I've put off saving for a down payment on a home because every dollar counts toward rent and daily survival. Even something as simple as starting a hobby or taking a weekend trip feels like an impossible luxury. Still, I hold on to hope. I remind myself that this isn't the end of my story. Maybe one day the economy will stabilize, maybe my career will take a turn, or maybe I'll find a way to break free from this cycle. For now, I'm just trying to survive with as much grace as I can muster, to keep going despite the weight on my shoulders. I want to believe that better days are ahead, even if they seem distant right now. It's hard to express just how isolating financial pressure feels, like you're invisible and drowning all at once. But if I've learned anything, it's that I'm not alone. There are so many of us navigating this same struggle, and maybe by sharing this story, someone else won't feel so isolated either. We deserve more than just scraping by. We deserve a chance to dream, to build, and to live without the constant fear of falling behind. Until then, I'll keep fighting, keep hoping, and keep trying to find light in the shadows. Because at the end of the day, what choice do I have? I never imagined that the little choices I make every day would feel like walking on a tightrope stretched thin between survival and exhaustion. But here I am, in my mid-20s, caught in this relentless squeeze where no matter how hard I work, the weight of expenses seems to grow faster than the money I bring in. It's a quiet kind of pressure, but it's there all the time, in the background, in my chest, in the restless nights I try to shake off. It started with that nagging realization that my paycheck, once something I thought could carry me toward independence, now feels like a threadbare blanket barely covering me in the cold. Rent eats up more than half of what I make, which means every other bill, every little necessity, demands its own rationed portion of what's left. Groceries, transportation, phone bills, utilities, the list never ends, and prices keep climbing like they're racing me in some cruel marathon I didn't sign up for. The hardest part is that these aren't just numbers or statistics, they're decisions with real consequences. When I have to choose between filling up my car or buying groceries, it's not an abstract dilemma, it's hunger versus getting to work. When the electricity bill comes, I find myself debating whether to cut the heat or eat less that month. These are the small battles that define my days, and they add up in ways I hadn't anticipated. I often feel trapped in this system that seems designed to keep people like me running in place. It's as if the economy is a giant wheel, spinning faster and faster, and I'm clutching it, trying not to fall off, but my grip slips a little more with every turn. The minimum wage hasn't kept up, job opportunities feel scarce or temporary, and inflation makes everything more expensive. I'm working multiple part-time jobs, juggling shifts, trying to stretch every dollar, but the math never balances in my favor. Sometimes, I catch myself thinking about the dreams I've had to put on hold. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond my small town, to experience life outside this constant cycle of paycheck to bill to paycheck. I had plans to go back to school, to get a degree that might open doors to better jobs, a more stable future. But each time I consider it, the cost looms too large: tuition, books, lost wages, and the risk of debt, and I push it further away. It feels like a luxury I can't afford. Social gatherings have become fraught with stress, too. When friends invite me out, I'm torn between wanting to join and fearing the hit to my tight budget. I say no more often than I want, and it makes me feel isolated, like I'm missing out on life's moments because of something I can't control. The emotional toll is heavy. I carry a quiet shame, a fear of judgment, and a deep-seated anxiety about what tomorrow will bring. To cope, I've learned to find small pockets of joy where I can. A walk in the park, reading books from the library, watching movies at home instead of the theater, these little acts are my anchors. I try to remind myself that this is a season, that it won't last forever, even though the horizon often feels blurred and distant. I lean on the few people I trust, sharing my fears and frustrations, because holding it all inside would be too much. Some days, I feel defeated, like I'm sinking under invisible weights, and the future looks like a dim flicker just out of reach. But other days, I find a spark of hope, a new job opportunity, a small saving, a supportive conversation, and it reminds me why I keep going. I hold on to the belief that with perseverance and a bit of luck, I can break free from this cycle. That one day, I'll look back and see these struggles as the crucible that shaped me, not the cage that confined me. For now, I'm navigating this complicated, exhausting landscape, making tough choices every single day, and trying to keep my spirit intact. Because beneath the pressure, beneath the worry, there's still a young person who dreams, quietly, patiently, of a life where financial stress doesn't define every moment, and freedom feels like something real, not just a distant hope. And that dream, fragile as it is what keeps me moving forward. It feels like I'm living inside a loop, a cycle that never ends, where the bills pile up faster than my paycheck grows, and the weight of it all presses down on me every single day. I'm 26, working full-time at a retail job that barely pays the rent, and each month feels like a test of endurance rather than progress toward any kind of future. I remember when I graduated college with hope in my eyes and a vision of a stable life ahead. I thought a diploma was my ticket out of worry, out of scarcity. But reality hit hard. Rent keeps climbing, groceries cost more, utilities spike unpredictably, and my paycheck? It's almost the same as it was 2 years ago. Sometimes I wonder if I'm invisible to the economic forces around me, like I'm caught in a system designed to keep me stuck, where the cost of living rises relentlessly but wages crawl along behind, gasping for air. Each morning I wake up and immediately think about money. Not in a what can I spend today way, but in a survival way. Will I have enough for the electric bill after I buy food? Do I need to skip lunch to save for gas? Can I afford to pay the phone bill this month, or do I risk losing service? These aren't hypothetical questions, they're my reality. And the decisions I make each day are shaped entirely by this financial pressure. It's exhausting. Not just physically, but emotionally. The stress gnaws at me like a persistent shadow. Some nights I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding because I'm worried about what happens if the car breaks down, or if I get sick and can't work. The fear isn't just about today, it's about tomorrow, the next month, the next year. Will I ever get out of this loop? Will I ever have a cushion, a safety net, or the freedom to make choices without fear? I try to be careful. I budget obsessively, clip coupons, cook at home even when I'm too tired to move. I avoid social outings because fun feels like a luxury I can't afford. That birthday party I wanted to go to? Declined. The concert I dreamed of attending? postponed indefinitely. Even small pleasures, like buying a book or getting a coffee, have to be weighed against more pressing needs. It's like I'm rationing life itself. The system feels cold and relentless, like a machine that's speeding up, pulling money away from me faster than I can earn it. Every pay raise or side hustle I manage barely makes a dent before the cost of living swallows it whole. It's a trap, and the walls close in a little more every day. Despite all this, I'm holding on to hope, fragile and flickering, but still there. I dream about the day I can move into a place that feels like home, where I'm not terrified of rent increases or surprise expenses. I want to go back to school and finish my degree, to open doors that are currently shut tight. I dream about travel, about seeing the world beyond my cramped apartment and the fluorescent lights of my job. I cope by carving out moments where money doesn't matter, reading, writing, long walks in the park when it's free and quiet. I talk with friends who understand, who don't judge me for saying no because they're in the same boat. I remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank account, even when the pressure makes it hard to believe. This isn't just a story about finances, it's about what it feels like to live trapped in a system where expenses keep rising but my income doesn't, where every choice is shadowed by anxiety and fear. It's about resilience in the face of constant pressure, about postponing dreams but not giving up on them. And it's about the quiet hope that someday, things will get better. For now, I keep moving forward, one day, $1 at a time, holding on to the hope that this loop will break, and that someday, I'll breathe freely again. I always thought that by my mid-20s, I'd have things figured out, a steady job, maybe a small apartment I could call my own, and enough savings to feel like I was building something for the future. But here I am, almost 27, and the reality feels like a tightening noose around my chest. The economic world keeps spinning faster, but somehow, my paycheck barely stretches to cover the basics. It's this invisible trap, expenses climbing like an unyielding tide, while my income stubbornly stays the same. Every day, I'm forced to make choices that chip away at my dignity and dreams. Should I buy groceries this week or pay a bill that's due? Can I afford the bus fare, or should I walk the extra miles despite my aching feet? The cost of rent alone feels like a mountain I'm climbing with no summit in sight. Last month, my landlord raised the rent again. I felt my stomach drop when I saw the number. There was no negotiating, just acceptance. But inside, a voice whispered, "How much longer can you keep this up?" The cost of living isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet, it invades my daily life in small, relentless ways. I've stopped buying coffee out, even though I used to enjoy that little treat. I eat leftovers until I'm sick of them. Social invitations become sources of anxiety rather than joy, because I know saying yes means stretching myself thinner than I can afford. Friends invite me out, and I smile and say no, again. I feel myself fading out of their lives, but it's not a choice, it's survival. The financial pressure weighs on my mental health in ways I never expected. Some nights, I lie awake replaying my budget in my head, trying to find a way to make ends meet. The anxiety creeps in quietly at first, then swells into a roar that drowns out everything else. I feel trapped, like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up while the floor beneath me falls away. There's a profound loneliness in that, watching others move forward with weddings, trips, or buying homes, while I'm stuck in a cycle of just scraping by. I cope by creating little routines of control wherever I can. I meal prep, hunt for discounts, and try to keep a spreadsheet of my spending. I've started freelance gigs on the side, hoping for extra income, but that brings its own stress and exhaustion. Sometimes I talk to close friends, though I'm careful not to burden them with the weight I carry. It's easier to pretend things are fine than to expose the rawness of this ongoing struggle. What hurts most is the dreams I've had to shelve. I wanted to travel, to see new places, meet new people, expand my world beyond this small, tight bubble. I imagined further schooling, advancing in my career with certifications or workshops. I dreamt of a cozy home with a little garden, a space that felt mine. But those hopes now feel like distant stars, beautiful yet unreachable. I tell myself it's temporary, but the temporary has lasted years. There are moments when despair settles deep inside, but I also find sparks of resilience. I remind myself that this system wasn't built for people like me to win easily. It's designed so that expenses keep rising faster than wages, and breaking free requires more than just hard work. It requires luck, policy changes, and sometimes, a bit of grace. I write this not because I have the answers, but because I want someone else who feels this way to know they aren't invisible or alone. It's okay to admit when the weight is too much. It's okay to feel scared and vulnerable. I hope by sharing this, we can start to dismantle the silence around financial struggle, and maybe, just maybe, create space for real change. Until then, I keep going, step by cautious step, holding on to hope like a lifeline. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. It's a strange thing, this feeling of being caught in a never-ending loop where every step forward somehow feels like 2 steps back. I'm 26, and every day I wake up with this gnawing anxiety that no matter how hard I try, the numbers just don't add up. The rent goes up again, the price of groceries climbs higher, and even the utility bills seem to mock me with their steady increase. Meanwhile, my paycheck? It stays stubbornly the same. Or worse, sometimes feels smaller when I factor in everything I owe and need to cover. It's like the system is designed for me to stay trapped, a hamster on a wheel that's spinning faster than I can run. I used to think I had a plan. I graduated college with dreams, big ones, even if they were vague. I wanted a career that mattered, a life where I wasn't just scraping by. But reality has a way of reshaping those dreams, or at least forcing you to put them on hold indefinitely. After college, I found a job in marketing. Not the glamorous kind, more like the kind where you're lucky if your boss remembers your name. The pay was decent for an entry-level role, but nowhere near enough to comfortably cover everything, especially living in a city that feels more expensive by the day. Every morning, I pack my lunch to save a few dollars, even though part of me wishes I could just walk into a cafe and order whatever I wanted without worrying if it'll mean skipping groceries later in the week. On weekends, I don't go out with friends as often anymore, no new clothes, no spontaneous dinners, no last-minute movie tickets. My social life has shrunk to the bare minimum, mostly because I can't afford to participate in the way I want to. There's a sting in seeing friends post about trips, nights out, or even just a new gadget they bought, knowing I have to scroll past it quietly, telling myself it's just not in my budget. The emotional weight of this pressure is hard to explain. It's not just about money, it's about feeling stuck, like you're constantly swimming upstream in a river that's getting faster and deeper. Every time I pay a bill, I feel a little deflated, like a balloon losing air. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm just not working hard enough, but the truth is I'm exhausted. Working late nights, picking up extra freelance gigs on weekends, and still it's barely enough. The inflation hits everything: gas, groceries, rent. It's as if the cost of living has become a monster with an insatiable appetite, devouring every extra cent I manage to save. One of the hardest parts is the postponement of dreams. I once dreamed of traveling, seeing places beyond the city's gray skyline. I imagined myself learning new skills, maybe even going back to school for something I'm passionate about. But now, those plans feel like luxury items on a shelf I can't reach. I tell myself it's just a temporary sacrifice, but days turn into months, and months into years. Sometimes I think about the things I've missed: an old guitar gathering dust in my closet, books I wanted to read but couldn't justify buying, courses that promised growth but came with tuition fees too steep for my pocket. The system feels like it's designed to keep people like me in this loop of survival, where the struggle to get ahead is a constant uphill battle. I see the news, I hear about economic downturns, job market instability, and it all feeds into this feeling of uncertainty that I carry with me. It's exhausting not just physically, but mentally, worrying about the next paycheck, about whether a medical bill will come out of nowhere, about whether the job I have now will still exist in a year. Coping isn't easy. Some days, I try to escape by binge-watching shows or losing myself in music, but those moments feel fleeting. I've started journaling more, writing out the frustration and the tiny victories, like managing to save a few dollars or making a week's worth of meals from what's left in the pantry. It's a small act of control in a world that often feels out of control. I also lean on a few close friends who understand without judgment, people who remind me that I'm not alone in this even when it feels like it. Despite all of this, I hold on to hope. It's fragile, but it's there. Hope that the economy will stabilize, that wages will catch up with costs, that I'll find a career path that pays not just my bills but also feeds my soul. Hope that the postponed dreams aren't gone forever, just delayed. I remind myself that this chapter, no matter how hard, is just part of my story, not the whole book. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to live with honesty about what it means to be a young adult in this economic reality. It's not glamorous, it's not heroic, it's simply real. And maybe, by sharing this story, I'm reaching out to anyone else who feels the same way, hoping that together we can find some light in the cracks of this difficult system. I never imagined I'd be living like this, caught in a loop where every month feels like trying to hold water in my hands, only to watch it slip through the cracks no matter how tightly I grip. I'm 26, working a full-time job, trying to keep my head above the rising tide of bills, rent, groceries, and unexpected expenses that seem to grow faster than my paycheck ever could. It's exhausting, and sometimes it feels like the whole system is designed to keep people like me just barely afloat, never quite able to get ahead. I moved out on my own right after college, full of hope and ambition. I thought a degree would open doors, that with a little hard work, I'd be able to build a stable life. But reality hit hard. The entry-level job I landed barely covers rent and utilities in the city I call home. Every month, I watch prices rise, groceries, gas, even the utility bills that feel like they spike overnight. Meanwhile, my salary stays almost stagnant, with a tiny cost of living adjustment that hardly makes a dent. The gap between income and expenses is widening, and I'm the one struggling to fill it. Some days, I wake up with this sinking feeling in my chest, like I'm trapped in a maze with no exit. I check my bank account, and the numbers stare back at me, a constant reminder of how tight things are. There's rent due, the credit card balance creeping up from emergency expenses I had no choice but to cover, and the looming student loans that feel like a ball and chain. Every purchase has to be justified. Do I really need that coffee? Should I skip lunch out with friends this week? Can I make it through another month without buying new clothes or replacing broken shoes? The answer is usually no, but I find myself scraping by, cutting corners, and sometimes just hoping for a little luck. The stress is relentless. It weighs on me like a shadow I can't shake. Some nights, I lie awake thinking about the future, wondering if this will ever change. Will I ever feel secure enough to move into a better apartment, save money, or even travel? The dreams I had when I was younger, owning a home, starting a family, building a career that feels meaningful, those dreams have been put on hold, pushed back indefinitely by the crushing reality of daily expenses. I try to stay positive, to remind myself that this is just a season in life, but it's hard. There's a gnawing feeling of being stuck in a system that wasn't made for people like me. A system where wages don't keep up with inflation, where healthcare, education, and housing costs keep climbing while the opportunities to improve my situation feel limited or out of reach. I see stories online and hear about people who got lucky or had support, but for me, it feels like the deck is stacked against me. To cope, I've learned to be hyper-aware of every dollar I spend. I meal prep every week to avoid buying lunch, cancel subscriptions I can live without, and try to find free or cheap ways to unwind, like walks in the park or borrowing books from the library. I've even started a side hustle delivering groceries on weekends, just to make a bit extra, though it leaves me exhausted. Sometimes, I talk openly about this with close friends, and that honesty helps. It reminds me I'm not alone, that others are fighting similar battles, even if they don't show it. Despite everything, I hold on to hope. I believe that with persistence and a little luck, things can get better. I want to believe that one day, I'll be able to save enough to feel comfortable, maybe start investing, or take a trip somewhere new. I dream about a life where money doesn't dominate every decision, a life where I can focus on growth, creativity, and relationships without constant worry. For now, I'm navigating this difficult reality, step by step. I'm learning resilience in a world that often feels indifferent to the struggles of people like me. And even though it's tough, I'm trying to remind myself that this pressure isn't a reflection of my worth or potential. It's a system problem, not a personal failure. So I keep going, one day at a time, hoping for a future where financial pressure doesn't define my story. It's hard to pinpoint the exact moment I realized I was trapped, not physically, but in this invisible cage built from bills, rising prices, and stagnant paychecks. I'm 27 now, and every day feels like I'm running in place, exhausted but not moving forward. I remember the optimism I had after college, thinking that with a degree and some experience, I'd finally start to live the life I imagined. But the truth hit me like a freight train, expenses rise faster than my income, and no matter how hard I work, the gap keeps widening. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing on my mind isn't the day's tasks or even the people I love, it's money. How much do I have left after rent? Can I afford groceries this week, or will I have to scrape by on instant noodles again? Will I need to skip buying new shoes or a prescription refill just to keep the lights on? These questions are relentless. They shadow every decision I make. I work 2 jobs. One is a retail position, the other is freelance work I try to squeeze in on weekends and late nights. It's not glamorous, and the pay isn't enough to cover all the expenses, let alone save anything. Every paycheck disappears as fast as it arrives. Rent keeps going up, it's like a constant uphill battle. The grocery store prices fluctuate, gas costs more each week, and unexpected expenses always find a way to sneak in, a broken phone screen, a car repair, medical bills. Sometimes I feel like the system is designed to keep people like me down, like we're running on a treadmill that only speeds up when we try to slow down. Expenses rise, but wages barely budge. I've watched friends move out of the city because they couldn't afford to stay. I thought about it too, but leaving means new expenses and uncertainty. So, I stay, caught between wanting to build a life here and feeling like the cost of living is a weight dragging me under. Emotionally, it's draining. The stress feels like a constant low hum that sometimes spikes into panic. I avoid opening my bank app because seeing the numbers reminds me of what I don't have. Sleep is restless, haunted by what ifs. What if I lose one of my jobs? What if I get sick? What if I have to borrow money again? There's a shame too, a feeling that I'm failing at something I was supposed to have figured out by now. I cope by cutting costs wherever I can. I cook at home, meal prepping to avoid eating out. I skip social events and holidays because fun feels like a luxury I can't afford. I barter with friends, babysitting in exchange for rides, sharing meals, swapping clothes. Sometimes I get creative, like picking up odd jobs or selling things I don't need anymore. But even then, it's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. The dreams I had in my early 20s feel distant now. I wanted to travel, to own a home, to start a family. Those dreams have been shelved indefinitely, postponed to some vague someday that keeps getting pushed further away. The thought of saving for a down payment feels like a joke. Retirement is a far-off concept, one I don't even dare plan for. Instead, I focus on surviving the present, hoping that someday the financial pressure eases. But there's still hope. I remind myself that this isn't the whole story, that my worth isn't tied to my bank balance or my ability to keep up with an impossible system. I find moments of joy in small things, a good book from the library, a walk in the park, a deep conversation with a friend. I try to build resilience, to keep dreaming even if those dreams have to wait. This story isn't just about money, it's about living inside a system that feels rigged, about feeling stuck and overwhelmed but still pushing forward. It's about the quiet strength it takes to face each day, to cope with the stress, and to hold on to hope that one day, I'll break free from this cycle and finally start to build the life I imagined. For now, I take it one paycheck, one decision, one breath at a time, still searching for a way out of the trap, still believing that better days are ahead. It's late, again. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, the glow of my phone screen the only light in my small apartment. The monthly bills notification just popped up, and my heart sinks before I even open the email. Rent, utilities, phone, groceries, insurance, transportation, each expense feels like a mountain I have to climb, one that only grows steeper every month. And no matter how hard I work, my paycheck doesn't seem to keep pace. I'm trapped in a cycle that's exhausting, isolating, and frankly terrifying. Growing up, I always thought if I just worked hard enough, I'd be fine. I imagined my 20s would be about growth, personal, professional, financial. But the reality is so much harsher. Inflation, rising rent, skyrocketing costs of everything from food to healthcare, it's like the system itself is designed to squeeze me dry. The expenses keep growing faster than my income, and it feels like I'm treading water in a stormy sea, struggling not to drown. Everyday decisions are a delicate balance of survival and sacrifice. When I stand in the grocery store aisle, I calculate prices in my head. Do I get the fresh vegetables or the canned ones? Can I afford the brand I like, or do I need to settle for the cheaper, less healthy option? Paying for transportation means choosing between a bus pass or cutting back even more on food. When friends ask me to hang out, I often say no, not because I don't want to be social, but because I know going out means spending money I don't have. This pressure gnaws at me constantly, seeping into every corner of my life. I feel anxious about money nearly every day. It's the first thing I think about when I wake up and the last thing before I fall asleep. The stress is invisible but heavy, like carrying a weight that nobody else sees. It's embarrassing sometimes. I try not to talk about it because I don't want pity or judgment, but that just makes the isolation worse. I've learned to cope in ways that sometimes feel like band-aids on a deeper wound. I track every cent, stick to strict budgets, and live with relentless discipline. I've taken on extra shifts and freelance gigs, always chasing a little more income, but it's exhausting. The constant hustle drains my energy and leaves little room for hope or rest. Sometimes, I catch myself daydreaming about what could be, and then the harsh reality pulls me back. The hardest part is the dreams I've had to postpone or completely give up on. I wanted to travel, to see the world and experience life beyond these city streets. I hope to save for graduate school, to better myself and eventually find a more stable, better-paying job. I dreamed of owning a home, creating a safe and comfortable space that felt truly mine. But these dreams feel distant, like stars flickering out of reach. Each month, I tell myself it's temporary, that soon things will improve. But the timeline keeps stretching, and hope becomes harder to hold on to. Emotionally, this constant pressure wears me down. It's a roller coaster of hope and despair, motivation and fatigue. I feel guilty sometimes, like I'm failing myself or my family because I can't make it work the way I thought I would. There's shame in having to ask for help or admit that things are tough. I try to keep a brave face, but inside, I'm scared of what happens if I can't catch up, scared that this cycle will never end. Despite everything, I cling to the belief that my situation doesn't define me. I remind myself that this economic system is flawed and unfair, not a reflection of my worth or effort. I reach out to friends when I can, finding comfort in their understanding. Sometimes, I write. Putting my thoughts on paper helps me process the frustration and fear. And on the rare good days, I let myself dream again, even if it feels risky. This story isn't just mine. It's the story of so many young people trying to build a life amid rising costs and stagnant wages. We're caught in a system where surviving feels like an achievement, and thriving feels out of reach. But I believe in the power of speaking honestly about this struggle because silence only deepens the trap. For now, I keep going, step by step. I hold on to small victories, paying a bill on time, finding a good deal, making it through the month. And I keep my dreams alive in quiet moments, hoping for a future where financial pressure doesn't dictate every choice or steal every joy. I hope that one day, I can look back on this time and see it as the storm I survived, not the life I was forced to settle for. I never thought I'd be stuck in this kind of loop, the kind where every paycheck feels like a drop of water in a rising ocean. It's like no matter how hard I work, the tide keeps swallowing me whole, and I'm just treading water, gasping for breath. I'm 26, and honestly, some days it feels like I'm already drowning under the weight of bills, rent, groceries, and all the little costs that keep piling up faster than I can count them. I graduated college 2 years ago with a degree I thought would open doors. Instead, it opened a door to a tiny apartment, a minimum wage job, and a constant low hum of anxiety that never quite goes away. The economy out here feels like a beast I can't tame. Prices keep going up, but my income? It barely moves. I'm stuck in a cycle where each month, I'm just trying to make the numbers work, juggling rent, utilities, phone bills, student loan payments, and food, and sometimes, if I'm lucky, I get a little money left over. But most months, I don't. Most months, I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul, scraping by and hoping nothing unexpected happens. There's this constant tension in my chest, this feeling of being trapped in a system that isn't built for people like me. I see ads everywhere promising freedom and financial independence, but those feel like illusions when your reality is choosing between eating out or saving a few dollars for a doctor's visit you don't want to skip. I want to believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but sometimes it feels like that light is flickering and fading. Every morning, I wake up with a to-do list that feels more like a countdown: pay this bill, apply for this job, figure out how to afford groceries this week. It's exhausting. When you're under financial pressure, even small things become monumental decisions. Do I buy fresh vegetables or opt for cheaper, less healthy options? Can I afford the bus fare, or do I have to walk an extra mile to save? Those choices chip away at your sense of normalcy. I find myself thinking about money in moments that used to be carefree. When I hang out with friends, I'm calculating what it's going to cost. When I want to buy clothes, I'm counting how long I can wear what I have. I often feel invisible in this struggle, like it's something I should be ashamed of. People talk about hustling and grinding, but they don't talk about the exhaustion that comes with it. The kind that seeps into your bones and steals your dreams. I want to travel, to explore new places and meet new people, but I put those dreams on hold indefinitely. I want to think about starting a family someday, but that feels like a luxury too far ahead to even consider right now. Even simple joys, like going to a concert or seeing a movie, feel like reckless indulgences when every dollar is accounted for. Some days, I catch myself slipping into a dark place, wondering if this is just how it's going to be forever. But then I remind myself of the small victories, the times I managed to save a little extra, the days I cooked at home instead of ordering takeout, the moments when I talked openly with friends about what I'm going through and realized I'm not alone. Those moments remind me that this pressure, while overwhelming, doesn't define me. I cope the best way I can, by breaking the giant problem into smaller steps. I use budgeting apps to track every penny. I look for side gigs even if they pay poorly. I read articles on personal finance hoping to find a hack that will change the game. I find comfort in routines and the little rituals that make the day feel manageable: a cup of coffee in the morning, a short walk to clear my head, talking to my family on the phone. But no matter how hard I try, that nagging feeling remains, like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. I've had to postpone a lot of things. Therapy, for one. It's something I know could help me deal with the stress, but it feels like a luxury I can't afford right now. I've delayed fixing my car because the mechanic's estimate gave me a panic attack. I've ignored my mental health at times because survival felt more urgent. The dreams of stability, independence, and peace are still there, but they feel distant, like stars I'm reaching for but can't quite touch. Writing this now, I feel exposed, but also a little lighter. Because maybe part of this struggle is just naming it, telling the truth about what it feels like to live with constant financial pressure. It's not just about money, it's about how that pressure shapes every part of your life, your choices, your hopes, and your fears. But I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping that one day the tide will recede and I can finally breathe easy again. I don't have all the answers. Some days, I just keep putting one foot in front of the other. But I hold on to the hope that my story, my struggle, and my perseverance matter. That the system might be broken, but that doesn't mean I am. One day, I'll look back on this time and know that I survived. And maybe, just maybe, I'll find a way to live free from this endless chase. Sometimes I wonder if this constant pressure will ever ease, if I'll ever breathe freely without the weight of money suffocating me. Every morning, the first thought that creeps into my mind before anything else is, how am I going to make this month work? It's a loop that repeats endlessly, a cycle that drags me deeper into a feeling of being trapped. I'm 27, working full-time, often more than full-time, and yet the pile of bills never shrinks. Rent, utilities, groceries, the occasional unexpected expense, like when the car decided to break down last month. Each one feels like a mountain I'm supposed to climb every single time without rest, while my paycheck feels like a pebble in comparison. It's exhausting. It's humiliating. And it's relentless. The economy around me doesn't help. Prices rise like a tide that pulls me farther from shore, and my salary, if it grows at all, crawls along so slowly it might as well be standing still. I know the inflation rates, the news stories, the statistics, they're all numbers on a screen, but living it? It's a constant tightening of my chest. Last week, I had to make a choice I hate admitting, skip my usual morning coffee to save $3 a day. It sounds so small when I say it out loud, but those small sacrifices add up and they sting in a way that's hard to explain. Coffee was my little moment, a sliver of joy that made the start of my day bearable. Giving it up feels like losing a tiny piece of myself. I live paycheck to paycheck, but sometimes even that paycheck doesn't stretch to the end of the month. When that happens, I borrow from friends or put things on credit cards, things I know I can't really afford, but the alternative is sinking into a pit of anxiety that's worse than debt. Each time I do it, I feel like I'm digging my own grave a little deeper. The weight of debt isn't just financial, it's emotional, like a chain around my wrists that clinks louder every time I try to move forward. There's a shame in admitting this, too. I don't want people to know I'm struggling. I want to appear as though I have it all under control, that I'm handling life like an adult should. But inside, I feel fragile and exposed, constantly anxious about the next emergency, the next surprise expense that could ruin the fragile balance I built. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond my city's limits. I had plans to go back to school, maybe pursue something I actually love rather than just what pays the bills. I imagined owning a place of my own someday, maybe even starting a family. Those dreams seem like distant stars now, beautiful but impossibly far away. Instead, I settle for the basics, for survival. The nights I stay up scrolling through social media, watching friends post pictures of vacations or new homes or just nights out, I feel a sharp sting of envy mixed with sadness. I wonder what I'm doing wrong, why life seems to be passing me by while I'm stuck in this endless grind. Coping isn't easy. Some days, I put on a brave face, distract myself with work or a book, or a cheap movie at home. Other days, I cry quietly, overwhelmed by the hopelessness of it all. I try to remind myself that this isn't forever, that things can change. But when you're in the middle of it, the future looks blurry and uncertain, not the hopeful place I once imagined. The system feels rigged. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while my legs grow weaker. Expenses rise because companies want to profit, because the cost of living in this city is a cruel joke, because wages don't keep pace. Meanwhile, I'm expected to just keep going, keep working harder, keep sacrificing. I talk to my parents sometimes, and they tell me stories about their struggles, about how they had it hard too. It's comforting in a way, but it doesn't fix the present. Sometimes I wonder if this is the new normal for my generation, that no matter how hard we work, financial freedom is just a myth. Still, I hold on to hope. I remind myself that every small step counts, even if it feels insignificant. Maybe one day, the sacrifices will pay off. Maybe I'll find a job that values me more, or move to a place where the cost of living isn't so cruel. Maybe I'll be able to say yes to a vacation, to a course I want to take, or to a simple night out with friends without the shadow of money looming over me. For now, I'm learning to live with the uncertainty, to cherish the small victories, a month without overdrafts, a grocery bill that fits the budget, a moment of laughter with friends. I'm learning to be kind to myself, even when the world isn't. This isn't a story of defeat, but of quiet resilience. It's the story of many young adults like me, caught in an economic system that seems designed to hold us down, but still daring to hope for something better. and maybe that hope is enough to keep going. It's hard to explain the weight of constant financial pressure unless you've lived it. For me, it's been a slow, suffocating squeeze that started when I graduated college and hasn't really let up since. I'm 26 now, and every day feels like a careful balancing act, one misstep, one unexpected expense, and suddenly I'm scrambling. The economic landscape around me isn't just challenging, it's relentless. Expenses seem to climb faster than my income, and I'm trapped in a system that feels designed to keep me running but never getting anywhere. When I wake up each morning, my mind immediately flickers to money. It's almost involuntary now, like breathing. I check my bank account with a mix of hope and dread, knowing that the numbers probably haven't improved much since yesterday. Rent is due soon, groceries are running low, and I'm wondering if I can afford the bus fare or if I'll have to walk in the rain again. Simple choices become complicated. Do I buy a few extra ingredients to make better meals or stick to the bare minimum? Should I skip the doctor's appointment because co-pays add up, or risk putting my health on hold? Every decision is a negotiation with survival. I work 2 jobs, one full-time in retail, another part-time freelance gig that I grab whenever I can. The freelance work isn't steady, and the retail paycheck barely keeps pace with rising costs. I'm stuck in this cycle where bills grow faster than my paycheck, and every month feels like a fresh start to an exhausting race I'm doomed to lose. The rent keeps increasing, utilities spike with the seasons, and even basic groceries don't stretch as far as they used to. The prices on everything climb, but my income feels stuck in place, like the system is rigged against me. It's not just the numbers on a screen, it's how this constant pressure weighs on me emotionally. There's a persistent sense of anxiety and dread that never quite goes away. I lie awake some nights, heart pounding, wondering how I'm going to manage if my hours get cut or if an emergency comes up. I get frustrated with myself, feeling like I should be doing better, but at the same time, I know I'm working as hard as I can. The shame of feeling behind my peers, who seem to be buying homes, traveling, building lives, is a heavy burden. I'm trying to keep up, but the gap keeps growing. To cope, I've learned to make sacrifices most people wouldn't think twice about. I skip social gatherings because spending money on food or drinks feels irresponsible. I don't buy new clothes or gadgets, and I rely on hand-me-downs or thrift store finds. I cook everything at home, sometimes repeating the same meal for days, just to stretch what little I have. I avoid the doctor unless it's an emergency, because even minor health expenses throw me off balance. It's exhausting, this constant counting every penny mentality. The little joys of life feel like distant luxuries. Some days, I try to drown out the stress by losing myself in work or binge-watching shows, but the quiet moments are the hardest, when the silence gives my worries room to breathe. I think about the dreams I had once, owning a small home, traveling, building a stable future. Those dreams have been postponed indefinitely. I tell myself that someday, if I just get through this period, things will get better. But the years slip by, and someday feels farther away than ever. Despite all this, I hold on to hope, fragile but persistent. I remind myself that this situation isn't a reflection of my worth. I try to celebrate small wins, like paying off a credit card or managing to save a few dollars one month. I connect with friends who understand the struggle, and that solidarity helps me feel less alone. Sometimes I think about making a big change, moving to a cheaper city, going back to school for a new career, but those options come with their own risks and costs. Living under ongoing financial pressure has changed me. It's made me more cautious, more resilient, but also more vulnerable and tired. I'm still trying to find a way to break free from this cycle, to live beyond just surviving. I want to believe that better days are possible, that someday I'll look back and see this period not as a trap but as the hardest chapter before things finally turned around. Until then, I keep going. One day, one paycheck, one small decision at a time. Hoping, despite everything, that the future holds more than just struggle. It's hard to put into words how it feels to live with this constant financial pressure, like you're stuck on a treadmill that's speeding up, but your legs just can't keep pace. I'm 26, working full-time, doing everything right according to what I was told growing up. But the truth is, no matter how many hours I put in or how tightly I budget, my expenses keep growing faster than my paycheck, and the weight of it all presses down on me every single day. I remember the day I got my first real job after college. I was so excited, finally, financial independence. I imagined paying off my student loans quickly, saving for a small apartment, maybe even putting aside some money for a vacation. But then reality hit hard. Rent was way higher than I expected, groceries cost more every week, and utilities seemed to spike just as my paycheck arrived. On top of that, inflation was creeping up, and suddenly that paycheck didn't stretch as far as it used to. I realized I wasn't alone. It felt like the whole economy was working against me, with prices climbing but wages barely budging. Every morning, I wake up and mentally calculate the day's expenses before I even brush my teeth. Should I pack lunch today or eat out? Can I afford the bus fare, or do I have to walk? Will I have enough left to cover the phone bill, or do I need to skip it this month? These decisions aren't just annoying, they're exhausting. The emotional toll is enormous. I lie awake at night worrying if I'll make rent, if I'm one emergency away from disaster. It's a nagging anxiety that never really goes away. Sometimes, I feel like I'm living in a cage with invisible bars. No matter what I do, the bills keep coming. The system feels rigged. Expenses inflate with every month: gas prices, healthcare premiums, insurance, even things like toothpaste and shampoo get more expensive. But my income? It's stuck in place, or at best, inching forward at a snail's pace. It's like being chased uphill by a storm that never breaks. You run, but the wind just pushes harder. And it's not just about money. The financial strain bleeds into my mental health. I feel isolated, ashamed, and trapped. It's hard to talk about money struggles because so many people seem to think if you just work harder or budget better, you'd be fine. But it's more than that. This is a systemic issue, an economic squeeze that tightens around young people like me every day. I've tried to cope in different ways. I started using budgeting apps, tracking every dollar I spent, hoping to find some magic formula to fix it all. I take on side gigs when I can, even if they leave me drained. I cut back on the little joys: no dining out, no new clothes, canceling subscriptions. But these sacrifices feel endless and hollow. Sometimes I catch myself envying people who seem to live without this constant financial tension. It's a hard, lonely feeling. And then there are the dreams I've had to put on hold. I wanted to travel after college, to see new places and experience the world. I dreamed of saving enough to buy my own place, to build a home that felt safe and stable. I had plans for further education, hoping to qualify for a better job, one that could break me out of this cycle. But with my current financial reality, those dreams feel like distant luxuries. I've had to tell myself, maybe someday, over and over again, but the someday keeps receding. On bad days, the hopelessness is suffocating. I question if all this struggle is worth it, if I'll ever get ahead or just keep sinking deeper into this financial quicksand. But on better days, I remind myself that I'm not alone. Many people are in this same fight. I try to find strength in small victories, making it through a month without missing a payment, finding a cheaper grocery store, or just surviving the overwhelming pressure. I wish there was a simple fix, but I've come to understand that this isn't just a personal failing, it's a reflection of a system that needs to change. For now, I keep going, because giving up isn't an option. I hold on to hope that someday I'll look back at this time and see it as the battle that shaped me, not the chain that broke me. This is my story, not just of financial pressure, but of resilience, quiet endurance, and the fragile hope that better days lie ahead. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.